Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. Today, we have a really special guest. We're here with FranklinWH, and we are going to talk about innovating beyond ecosystems with FranklinWH. So while everybody is signing on, just make sure you're comfortable, switch off all your phones so you can focus. A little bit of Q&A as well. We have a Q&A section. Whenever you have a question, please just type it in and I'll try to include those questions as we go along. Justin will be great to answer any kind of questions. And we have also Brandon Sanchez here. He's the Director of Marketing for FranklinWH. So we have a fantastic team to answer any questions you may have about Franklin and their products. So before we start, let's just talk a little bit about BayWa. So thank you for being here. We have lots of things going on. Always, we are here for you. So in the chat, you can find some links. Why would you want to work with BayWa? But also you have a link to our products and to your web store, I should say, because everything you need is in there. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss out on any of the fun stuff. We have tons of trainings, webinars, in-person trainings, but also RE Plus and lots of fantastic news for you. So make sure you're signed up. Okay, let's kick it over to Justin. Justin, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here, Daniela, and to be hanging out with the BayWa family. We really enjoyed our partnership so far these last couple of years. It has grown into something really special, and so much of being a manufacturer is being there for your partners, right? And so we really appreciate just the continuity of it all, and the fantastic relationship that we have, and hopefully continue with no RMAs. Good record so far. So we're pretty happy with you guys.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
So happy to kick this off, and going to try to leave as much time as we can at the end for questions, and hopefully you guys have a lot after we're done going over this. Daniela, can we see my screen okay?
Yes, you're good to go.
Perfect. So yes, today's webinar is Innovating Beyond Ecosystems with Franklin Whole Home. And we know, been in this industry for 16 years and have seen so many manufacturers come in and go. But we're seeing a big change in the market where manufacturers are starting to cover more and more and more of the total system products that the energy storage encompasses, right? Not just inverters, but batteries and everything else. This is a great thing for many customers, but it's not great for everybody, right? In this new electrification age, not every home is the same, and Franklin's been known for its ability to adapt and respond to pretty much any project that you can throw at it. So we want to ask, go over a few interesting topics today. I'll introduce myself. If we haven't met, I'm Justin Hopkins, the Senior Director of Strategic Accounts for Franklin Whole Home, and I think I was employee number 4. So we've been at this for a minute, and it's been a real pleasure to work with many of you that are on this call right now, as I can see. So, if you have worked with Franklin, if you haven't, you may have heard, we are an AC coupled solution that works with pretty much every generator, every inverter on the market to provide a really Swiss Army-like adaptable solution for electrification. And Daniela, I know we set up a little poll. Maybe now's a good time to fire that out.
Let's do it. So just before we kick it off, it would be great to see where we're all at. So innovating beyond ecosystems. When you're in the home, do you lead with an AC coupled or DC coupled solution? So you can have one choice here, AC coupled, DC coupled, or I don't sell energy storage yet.
Well, this is actually really fun to watch. Looks like an EKG going back and forth.
Yep, let's wait for a few more responses. Okay, it looks like it stopped moving. All right, yeah, I'm going to close the poll and see the results. So Justin, is that result surprising to you at all?
Not even a little bit. Is I kind of what I expected. I thought we'd maybe see a little more DC coupling given the cost down environment of the marketplace with interest rates. But it's encouraging to see, to say the least.
Yeah, this is great. And it's only 12 people who responded so far. So please don't be shy, participate or post it in the chat. So that will help us to, structure the webinar exactly how you want it. So please put in all of your questions. That's awesome.
Awesome. Let's ask one more question then before we start talking about Franklin, since we do have one more queued up.
Yes.
There we go.
So the second question, what has prevented you from using Franklin Whole Home up to this point? So you can choose multiple responses here. It's too expensive, technology is too new, I already like the product I'm using, it's made in China, batteries are too heavy, or I love Franklin WH. Why would that prevent you from using it?
And honesty is the best policy here.
Right, exactly.
You are anonymous and safe.
So while we are getting the results in, Justin, there was in the Q&A, there was someone saying that they need a very specific solution, and whether we have some engineering technical experience here on the call. Is that something you could handle, or would we maybe refer?
Absolutely. If we don't mind
Okay,
saving it for the end of the call, we'll go down
you
that
got it.
rabbit hole. I'm not constrained by time, so we're fine.
Fantastic. All right, that's
Awesome. We got a
fantastic.
little more participation in this one, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave it going because people are still voting.
Okay. So far it looks like I already like the product I'm using. That's interesting. So maybe we can get some chat conversation going. So
It
we
would make
can,
sense why you would attend a webinar that says
right.
innovating beyond. It's the time. Oh, Daniela, you're awesome. Thank you. I think we can end this. And
All right, let's end
yeah,
it. All right. So we have, I love Franklin. I love Franklin too. So that's a good one. Technology is too new is like, it looks like the third most important item here. Not a lot of people, but still, maybe you can address that point in particular. Any
yeah,
comments,
certainly.
Justin?
Oh, no, none at all. We're going to share the results and let you guys take a peek at this. And again, really appreciate your feedback. It's more valuable than you'll ever know. And this is pretty pretty consistent with what we were expecting to see. So we'll talk a little bit about Franklin. If you guys are still able to see this, but for us at Franklin, this whole entire company is derived around innovation and this pursuit of quality. When I came to Franklin in 2022, we just had a few batteries deployed across the country, many of them in Hawaii, as far as betas. And the big thing I told Gary is like, our service needs to be so good that you and I really never know the name of a homeowner, that never comes across our desk, that our team is able to solve these problems long before they ever escalate. And we've really kind of stuck to that rule. I will say that there have been plenty of homeowners I've had the pleasure to meet and speak with and assist. But from a nuclear type of standpoint, this is something that we've largely avoided. And it really comes down to our dedication to service as much as our dedication to innovation. So the product started being developed really late 2018. The company was founded in 2019 by Gary Lamb, David Wang. Gary is a Rutgers, actually was raised in Ecuador, went to high school in New Jersey, went to college at Rutgers. And his good friend, David Wang, who was the VP of Emerson Network Services over in China, probably the biggest data center providers across the world. They basically just said, hey, these batteries aren't that complicated, but for whatever reason, nobody can make them work right. We can do something better. Gary had gotten a Tesla on his house, and that started poking and prodding at it and building what you see now, which is the Franklin 8-power battery. So as of April 22, there was only 9 batteries in the market. Now, as April 2024, there was 11,000 batteries deployed across the U.S. Fun fact, there's only ever been, I think, under 20 RMAs, 19 total RMAs out of that So many of which were installer error. But just to give you an idea, again, we've been really focused on once you put that product on the wall, it's going to stay there. Your customer is going to be happy and to be able to use it. A lot of that success comes from the over 300 employees that we have, where 70% of our company really is people in a back room, testing, blowing things up, and making sure that everything works exactly as it should. The last time I was in our lab, they had a power in the oven at 158 degrees. So it's constantly pushing the limits of what these things are capable of is kind of what we're known for. We do make the product ourselves. I think that's important in a land of white labeled materials. You never really know what's in the guts. We do, use the top in class components, Texas Instruments, Infineon, as well as LFP CATL cells that we're purchasing at a tier 1 level. And currently, I know this is always a question, where are we manufacturing these? They're currently being manufactured in Shenzhen through our Japanese manufacturing partner, but we will be moving that domestically to the US over the next 12 months. For those that don't know the product, it's pretty simple, right? I always like to think that if I'm going into a storm and coming back on time is the most important thing, do I want a Rolex or an Apple Watch, right? And Franklin really is built from that analog guts, right? Really over redundant hardware. You're getting a top tier LFP cell that's actually guaranteed by CATL for 12 years on the capacity warranty. And it's an all-in-one system design. So we build these ourselves, and then we are testing them and shipping them out. Used to have a joke inside the office that every Franklin whole home comes used, right? Because we make sure that every battery actually works before we ship it. We have the option for built-in smart panel. This is one of the things that put us on the map really early and got people curious about our product, was the ability to actually manage loads. I got a span on my house. I'm a big fan of smart panels, but I also know that if I gave my grandmother a span panel, she wouldn't be able to get the lights on for weeks if she turned them off. So this was built for the average homeowner that needs to be able to control larger loads, like an air conditioning unit, a pool pump, or maybe their EV, right? Prevent their EV from draining their battery if the power goes out in the middle of the night. And we'll talk a little bit about the improvements on those smart circuits shortly. So we have been doing some work on that. So excited to talk about those. To me, the coolest thing about Franklin is it's an off-grid battery out of the box, which is what homeowners really want, right? They want the ability to operate independently, have complete energy freedom, tell the utility where to put it, right? And Franklin's system really is meant to be, a behind the meter solution where we can offer those customers that, a sense of freedom, and we'll dig into that more. And again, our 12-year warranty is extremely robust. So it's 43 megawatt hours throughput and 12 years. There is no cycle limit on this product. When you're looking at the VPPs and the various DER like programs that you can enroll in, this becomes a really big factor, because we saw in Hawaii with an unnamed major battery manufacturer where the cycle limit prevented those batteries from actually reaching the full rebate life because of how they were being used. And that was spotted and actually forced the manufacturer to rewrite the way their warranty was done to prevent major lawsuits. So we do not have a cycle limit, and we know that works because, like I said, we have batteries that live in ovens. So we know how tough these things are. And they can be used for whole home backup. They can be for off-grid backup as well as partial backup if you're just looking to support some critical loads. For me, the reason I'm at Franklin, and we always joke, I was in this solar industry for 14 years, and you never get out of it, no matter how hard you try. When Gary called me for Franklin Whole Home, I was actually playing guitar for Barry Manilow in Vegas for his residency. But the opportunity that I see in this industry where education has finally apexed and homeowners know what they're looking for. They know the road that they're on and what their goals are for their family, whether it's electrification, being off grid, energy independence, saving on their electric bill. And that has been proven through policy. Right? We now see the IRA as probably the largest bill to come across in decades. And this is going to facilitate trillions of dollars of innovation. right, into our marketplace. So Franklin is committed to the idea that, hey, if you can get grandma to go in a corner and run on that gerbil wheel fast enough to generate 240 volt at 60 hertz, we'll take the energy, right? It's the ability to have as many power sources as possible powering your home. Such great conversations with folks in the East Coast that go, man, if I didn't have an apartment building to my left, an oak tree to my right, I would totally get solar, right? But the reality is that probably several years, a hydrogen generator will be as common as a fuel cell or a propane generator, right? Bringing that energy option to these customers to have that energy independence. So in the solar industry, we're a little partial to the sun, right? But we also know that there's a ton of innovation coming over the next 10 years. And whether it's going long outages by providing power from your car, or simply from providing more power to keep you off of grid use, right, from your vehicle. There's a lot of different ways, whether it's generators, wind, et cetera, that we're going to see this innovation find its home in the market. And in solar, we've been very agnostic, right? As in products, we switch them all the time. We find something we like because it allows our operations to flow more smoothly, causes us less roof leaks, right? There's rails, there's inverters, there's all these different products that we have choices from. What we're seeing is a tightening of the reins a little bit from manufacturers, right? They want you to kind of have your one fleet view and have all your customers on that one fleet view so you can see what they're doing. But the reality is when we do that, we tie ourselves to the innovation of the companies and the manufacturers. Do we trust them to come out with products every 3, 4, 5 years that will allow me as an installer to innovate my business, grow my lifetime value of these customers? And Franklin is committed to this strategy. We know you guys are not here to be in business for 4 to 5 years. Right? I'm 16 years in the industry, in my early 40s. I'm not retiring anytime soon, right? Those scars were expensive being in this business. So we have a long run to get to this finish line where we all throw up our hands and pass it down to the next generation. And when I look at our product, we have a 240 volt simple solution that meets AC where it works, right? And this is what we're really excited about. So talking a little bit about our A gate. This is, I always joke that if you've seen the inside of a Tesla gateway and then you looked at a Franklin gateway, you probably went, very interesting. Well, there's a story behind it. Elon Musk, many years ago, open sourced all of his engineering to the public, right? Said, here are our products. We're not taking patents. We're not pursuing IP on this. We want the world to take what we make and make it better. It's one of the things I actually really love about Elon Musk. It's a fantastic concept. So Li Hang, 24-year-old engineering student in Shenzhen, took the product and absolutely blew it up, right? Made it incredibly easy to work with, made it adaptable to everything, provided smart circuitry, figured out how a 280 amp bus bar could avoid pretty much every main panel upgrade requirement from any HJ across the country. And he put this out. It was and then he put a bunch of intellectual property around it, right? And patented it, which made me laugh. But the story of how Franklin got here really was, I think he was 24 or 25 when he made this. And the A-Gate's sweet spot is the ability to manage multiple power sources, right? If you've had other batteries in the past, you know that even a little bit of oversized solar, done. Like system's not going to work right. This is going to allow EV cars, generators, the grid, solar, and battery all to work together. Right? Tons of flexible backup options, whether it's leaving breakers in the main panel versus doing a backup panel or doing a non-backed up panel as well, even more robust solution where you don't have to worry about the monitoring of the energy back and forth. We have a solution for it. Most importantly, though, it's really simple for the homeowner. They see how much their home is using in real time. They know what their limits are for their system. And so they can walk around and turn off lights and see that happen literally within 5 seconds of changing it. Most importantly, this allows your customers who may not yet have bought an EV or are thinking about expanding their electrification, getting a hot tub, electric oven, electric water heater, all of these things in the future, right? These smart circuits are going to allow for that expansion of the power load without having to upgrade the electrical or do transformer work. Not to mention the A-Gate, coupled with our AP box, can go all the way up to 45 kilowatt of solar on a 200 amp connection. So again, those transformer jobs where the utility is saying, no way, you can't put 20 kilowatt of solar here. That's a big one, right? So in order to design these the right way, though, there's still a bit of engineering nuance. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like you can just slap whatever panels and however many batteries and everything just works perfectly, right? We do have some basic accessories like our smart circuit modules, our generator modules that currently need the smart circuits to work together. In our new A-Gate coming out, the generator module will operate separately of the smart circuits. And then we also have our AP box, which is used for large oversized systems. This allows you to, we'll go into details in a second, actually. Let me kind of walk you through these. So smart circuits first. I won't make you guys raise your hands, but we know how important smart circuitry and load control is moving forward, whether it's with new home construction, whether it's with customers that are tired of getting a bill where they don't know what's costing them all their energy. They can put in a span panel or a smart circuit, and now they're able to track that individual energy really easily. I have a lady in Hawaii. She's got 3 teenage boys. She lives off grid on the Big Island. Some a-hole 8 years ago sold her an electric water heater, which, if you know, in Hawaii, that is just blasphemous because everybody has solar hot water on their house. Well, she got this electric hot water heater, and her off-grid batteries, which were 54 kilowatt hour, were constantly being drained by 8, 9 a.m. because her teenagers would take 25, 30-minute showers after surfing. So she sits in the kitchen, and she would wake up and she'd never be able to make her coffee, right? Coffee machine would be dead. She'd know because that blows at 15,000 watts, right? Losing her mind. So now she sits with her smart circuits and she's like, boy, get out. And she'll just turn the hot water off on them. So the next one's going. She said, yeah, I save about 50% of energy every day just kicking these guys out of the hot shower. But for those like in Arizona, the new smart circuits with their CTs will allow you to avoid going over the 7 kilowatt max or the 11 kilowatt max, depending on what you're set for, on demand charges. There's a lot of cool little things that you can do to program these, including keeping your large appliances from turning on between peak hours. I bring up generators a lot. We at Franklin, we are kind of known for our generator adaptability. And there was a big joke early on that we work better with Generac than Generac. Hopefully that hasn't changed too much. As the generator gets smarter, it becomes more of an a-hole. I could be super honest with you. The more data we get into that generator, the more it knows, right? And the more it tries to do. So we've really worked to keep it dumb, right? Keep it basic, and not keep it too smart, which is, I think, a common mistake of products driven by AI software in the tech space. But the generator is going to power the home loads just like a solar system would, and that excess power will go to the batteries. We've seen these installed with Upstart, with some really cool new technology in the fuel cell space. And what I can tell you is that if you are not making this part of your business model right now, you are missing out on a huge tranche of the market that is looking for electrification and backup power. Typically people that haven't had the chance to go solar or have been told no, they can't. This is something that they are driving towards very hard. So again, for those of you on the more technical side, voltage sense, 2-wire dry contact for the ATS. And give it a base. Yeah.
Let me just jump in here real quick. There's been a question about whether or not the slides are being made available afterwards, because there was a particular interest in the circuits, et cetera, et cetera. Is that a good to go?
I'll tell you what you'll do. Contact me directly, and I will provide these slides to you. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Love it. So yeah, we've got the ecosystem, as you guys know. I always tell people, listen, when you're connecting to the A-Gate, at max, you're looking at 5 connection points. It's not a difficult install, right? As far as connecting to the system. And one of the really cool new things about our new A-Gate coming out is you will be able to use it for those, again, techies in there. You'll be able to use a quad breaker. So if you're combining 2 A powers or 2 PV inverters, you will not need to use a combiner box anymore. That's okay. You can clap. It's exciting news. But one of the things we see in the market that does concern me a little bit is the PV to battery ratio, right? When we're building systems, especially on self-consumption, we have a tendency to give way too much solar power and not enough battery storage. This is why we didn't come out with a 5 kilowatt hour battery or even a 10 kilowatt hour battery. we know that the average customer really needs at a minimum probably 13.6 from a self-consumption side to get through, even, for those that even qualify to go solar in the first place, that really want it. So from our side, what we are seeing, and very early on, a certain microinverter company did not want their products to work with our products or Tesla's products or LG's or anybody's for that matter, right? So it made it extremely difficult to do any solar or to keep the system islanded in an outage. Right now, as it stands, you can install up to 6 kilowatt AC of microinverter power per A power that will still work in an outage, right? The system will not max out. And with a string inverter, that goes as high as 7.6 for up to 30 minutes. In terms of max ratio, for those, again, this is for the technically sound people. I know you're thinking this in your head and wondering why we didn't talk about it sooner. So we do have those ratio sizing. So think of it this way: if I'm doing a single battery system and I want the solar to work, when the grid goes down, it needs to be either 6 kilowatt or low on a micro, 7.6 or lower on a string, or we can use the AP box, which will allow you to combine those larger systems, use part of it during the morning when the 10 kilowatts running at 5, and then shed it down to 5 kilowatt at 2 p.m. when the system would be otherwise running max. This is very important. Again, this is something any of you guys can reach out to me individually, and I can help you myself or connect you with a regional engineer and product manager in your area that can kind of walk you through the single line diagrams. This is a sandbox we love to play in. Our biggest focus is making sure that all the power sources can operate as they're intended to. That's why we created the AP box. So no manufacturer on the inverter side could basically shut us down. But this also allows for retrofitting systems using both previous systems to power the battery. Extremely extensive options there. So just for doing it, yeah, Daniela?
Yeah, I think this is extremely interesting what you just mentioned, Justin. And may I have your permission to share your email address, because I'm getting
Yes,
questions. So have
please,
your email
please, please.
address for because this is where it gets interesting, where you can maximize the benefit with your products. Then there was another question, not quite related to the PV to storage ratio, but I'm just going to read it out. I'm seeing these batteries mounted outdoors, even in your promotional materials. I get that you have the NEMA 3R, so I assume they're protected from continuous splash, at least functionally. But do these things have built-in air conditioners or what? How do you expect these to avoid thermal runaway when you're claiming nearly C-1 discharge? I don't know how to say. With these installers mounting on south-facing exterior walls in states that are seeing 100 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperatures.
Yeah, that's a great question, and let's talk about it. You should not be installing batteries on a south-facing roof in areas that have 100-degree temperature without shade. We have seen the batteries, in off-grid. Like, I think a very popular picture that's floating around is a 6-battery off-grid system that was installed next to a water tank in Bakersfield. That is now covered. So that is now under a full covering and housing, right? The only person we've ever really allowed to get away with it was Bill Brooks, because he's Bill Brooks. And they're like, he's probably trying to blow it up anyway. But the reality is, no, west and south, we really do need shading for the majority of the day. It can take a little direct sunlight, but that is going to beat up the cells. Now, with that being said, I'm going to show you a slide and a couple slides here that will kind of answer your question. We have doused these batteries in gasoline and let them burn for hours and hours. No thermal runaway. Our cooling system is a natural cooling system with 3 fans in it. Now, the 3 fans only turn on at certain temperatures, right? We do not need to bring the fans on until it hits 95 degrees. This is when the first fan kicks in. Second fan kicks in at 105. The third fan kicks in at 115. The new A power that we're coming out with will not have fans in it. But I would say that cooling on power electronics, like I mentioned in our past experience with Emerson, high wattage, long-term, non-interruptible power is what we're best at. So yeah, thermal runaway is very real, especially for lithium ion products. but with prismatic LFP cells, it's a whole nother bag. Like, we can go much hotter.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, certainly. I mean, it's exciting to talk about. So I'm going to show you a slide here in a minute that'll will trip your interest. Testing is definitely the thing that we spend the most time doing. Like 70% of our company is R&D. So when you guys get a product, it's like it's already been through 3 different charters. It's been beat up by 160 different people. It's been beta tested in the market with with actual customers. Just as a heads up. So, but on the PV side, just for the tech folks, just want to make sure you know that there's 3 ways to get around oversized solar systems. So let's say I'm installing a 10 kilowatt N-phase microinverters IQ8 on one Franklin whole home battery. I'm going to split that additional PV up, and I'm going to connect that part of the system to the non-backed up lugs on the A gate. Right? That means when the grid goes down, it's going to turn off that part of the solar system. The rest of the solar system will continue to work. If I do that, I need to use a split CT connector that you can purchase from BayWa. And so just a heads up, anytime we're landing on non-backed up lugs, we need to use an external split CT. Same thing with the line side tap, right? You can just connect the PV directly, extra PV into the grid, or you can use the AP box, right, to help turn off half the system when it gets too hot, but keep the rest of the system online in those shoulder hours where the system isn't performing at 100%. This allows you to add up to 65 amps of continuous current per AP box, and right now we can go up to 2 AP boxes in addition to the A gate capacity. So that's a max of 45 kilowatt of solar on 200 amp pass through. These do have CTs and the production meters built into them, so you don't have to install any extra CTs. You've got wired communication to the A gate, and yeah, really easy, great way to install these oversized systems that I'm seeing, especially on retrofits in California, where the customer's a NEM 2, and they want to maintain their previous NEM status, but they also want to have both their systems work with their batteries in a grid outage. Right? They don't need as much storage if they're under NEM2 and we're just self-consuming for the day and the evening. And just to update, so the new smart circuits, we did put a CT on them. So much more intelligent. You're going to see cooler response patterns and even more integrated load management that can be done based not only off of demand, but off of time. So as you guys know, just a couple basics about the battery, right? It's a 13.6 kilowatt hour. It was a very specific chosen amount of kilowatt hours, but it's actually a 14.7 installed. So we do leave a little over a kilowatt hour of capacity that's untouchable by the customer. So they can use 100% of the 13.6 kilowatt hour that's available to them. That gives us the highest net savings of any single battery on the market. It's not even close. Well, it's close, but not that close. But you can use 100% of it. And then if the customer does drain the battery all the way, then good news, right? You've still got that black start, that power to fire up the inverter the next day when the solar is ready to begin working. A lot of people think that when solar goes down in a grid situation, the reason it's not working is so power doesn't go back to the lines. It's simply because the inverter needs at least 100 watts to run to turn on the solar panels. So from that side of things, black start's kind of what we're known for, right? You don't have to go out there with a generator, recharge the system if the customer drains it, gives them that zombie-proof type, zombie apocalypse-proof system. And then you've got 5 kilowatt continuous, 10 kilowatt peak. So this is a stackable output. So 2 batteries, 10 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt peak. With 3 batteries is where we start to really smoke the competition across all planes, and that is 15 kilowatt continuous, 30 kilowatt surge with 3 and 40 kilowatt hours. And again, guys, this works with every inverter on the market. The ecosystem is, I just say certain people do some things better than they do other things, right? All we do is make an energy management device in a battery, right? This is our specialty. Yes, we make the inverter inside of it, but the inverter was made to work perfectly with batteries to get that extra surge power and squeeze that out. So the next day power 2, likely you can imagine, will be more in line with what we're seeing in terms of output numbers from the current market. But most customers need 2 batteries anyway, right? So if we're promising whole home power with a single battery, I mean, yeah, we can start a 4-ton AC, but we're only going to run it for 10 seconds. So, really, you want that ability to offer that energy freedom in a larger capacity. So, as I promised,
Justin, can I jump in
yeah,
here for a second?
please, yeah,
I have two questions actually. So on that slide, because we had the
hmm
question in the beginning, do you go in AC or DC coupled?
yes,
I was wondering whether you could, hammer out a little bit more the differences and why what is good for AC versus DC, if that's a good
yeah,
question. And the other question that came up for me is when you talked about that specific customer in California with the NEM2 and the way this battery can be actually used to maximize the benefit. I
right.
have a question around that because there are some states that have a still net metering that we know it's not going to be the future, but how can this be a good solution for somebody with net metering, like for example on the East Coast? Could you elaborate a
Right.
little bit on that?
Absolutely. So, there's three kinds of customers, right? You have where batteries are used, those ones where you're in a backup situation. The batteries are essentially for backup power. And typically that's going to be in a net metering one-in-one situation. So let's say Florida, I mean, Arkansas, a lot of these new markets, they have what's called, if you send power back, you get a credit. And it makes 0 sense to run that through your battery system because anytime you have an AC coupled battery solution, you're going to lose about 10%, right? Our round trips, I think 89.8%. So, in a one-in-one situation, the maximum value is to allow that system to just send back to the grid as much as it possibly can and not store it and just use your batteries and park them there for resiliency. Right. And we see this a lot in Florida. We've had these things drowned in hurricanes for days and, continue to work days afterwards. So while, those guys are waiting weeks for power on their street, they're able to kind of get their life back together and get moving. So there's tremendous value in that. In California, under net metering, and I'm a perfect example. I'm on NEM1 with my old system. And when I added batteries in 2018, they moved me. There was no choice to stay on NEM1. I had to move to NEM2, but needed batteries. And so the time I added Enphase, and that system now, right, operates, has a pretty big true up bill because both my tenants that live in that house have electric cars. Um, so that 4.9 kilowatt is not even close to touch, even though it's only 1,000 square foot house, it doesn't touch it, right? They've got a big true up bill. Now I've been thinking of actually adding Franklin and a 3 kilowatt to the system because now what I can do is I can just rip out the old batteries. We don't really need them. Program that system to have all the power going back to the grid. It is on a NEM, so I get all of the credits, every single credit. And with Franklin, I would set the AP box to make the logic so that power never touched my home loads, ever, right? I maximize the kilowatt hour yield by sending all of that power back to the grid. And now I'm going to put a little 3.2, which is going to cover them for the daytime. They're both workers. They're not home a lot. And that'll carry them through the high peak hours from 4 to 9 p.m. That'll allow them to charge their cars at night off of the credits that they got on NEM2. But then their basic usage now is used off the self-consumption system. So it eliminates, by removing the old battery, putting in my new Franklins, combining both systems, it eliminates a $3,300 true-up bill. So the ROI was fantastic,
I love that.
uh, even though it's my second system for the house. So there are a lot of customers that got EVs in California in the last 5-6 years, that got solar in the last 5-6 years, that are terrified. They don't know what to do. And this is a kind of solution you can walk into the homeowner and go, I got you.
That's
Right.
exactly what I'm talking about, like that kind of use case, and that creativity that is in your solution. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Thank you, Daniela. Yeah, that is the goal, right? We've got these in off the second Franklin system ever was actually panels on a shipping container with 2 batteries on a construction site because it was too expensive to get power up to this site, and the utilities like, it's going to be 7 months, and they're like, well, we kind of need a house now. They built a 6,300 square foot luxury home with 2A powers and solar panels, and I mean, we're talking buzz saws, table saws, rebar bender, compressors. The sine waves that we got out of that system allowed us to kind of just be able to process this really well. Like we don't really care what you're, like I said, what's coming in. We typically can take it. And we do have a 208 volt multifamily option as well now, by the way, that's on the table. So for those of you doing those multifamily housing projects, I think we're the only CEC approved 208 volt solution. So Daniela will give you my email. What was the other question? I know we got the NEM, but what was the one before that?
Just AC versus DC coupled solutions.
Yeah, right. So I've been doing solar a minute. I think a lot of you have. So if you're new to the industry, you remember the string inverter days, and you remember what the production looked like after we moved to micros, right? We used to say in California that 1 kilowatt hour got you like 1,400 to 1,500 kilowatt hours, or 1 kilowatt got you 1,500 kilowatt hours a year, right? That was the math on a good south-facing roof. With Enphase, with Solar Edge and optimizers, you're talking 1,700, 1,720 on these optimized systems. It's 15% more power long-term, because shading, bird could do a flyby, drop off a present, and your system is down until you clean that thing. I mean, there are so many variables that can cause these systems to lose production. And so the overall value, we're not talking about 2 or 3%, right? String inverters are not going to work as efficiently without optimizers as not even close, right? It's a 15% reduction. So for me, AC coupled provides two values. One, using the right equipment is going to significantly enhance my lifetime production long term. B, it allows, if there's a failure, that allows my batteries to continue to work as if they were there, right? Now, if I have wind and generator and an EV and my solar system stops working, I'm not stressing, right? Solar guy's not going to get back to me for 2 weeks anyway. I'm calling for a repair. So, right? So the ability to continue to have that electrification, have that system working for you, AC redundancy is so crucial. I understand the need to cost down. I understand the desire to get rid of all the extra work. It's so much more work, right? Even though a DC wire harness is not easy to put together, it is a lot more BOS. It's a lot more boxes on wall. It's a lot more you have to explain to the customer. But at the end day, like, redundancy and electrification is so important. On the commercial side, if you look at DERS applications and BPP commercial arrangements, they're all AC coupled. Unfortunately, interest rates and just an overall wild kind of economy have forced us to kind of consider maybe not offering what the best, most robust solution is to the consumer, because we're afraid of what it costs. And I would be too if I was tacking on 40 grand onto a $50,000 loan for fees, right? Like, just buy it later, dude. Call you in 4 years, right? This is where I struggled in this industry, because you do it enough, you know what's right and what's wrong. For us to completely move over to a string inverter model for everybody, and I'm seeing it with 4 different arrays, 3 different arrays. Good luck, guys. That's all I gotta say. We did what we could to prepare you for this, right? To test out the system, light it on gasoline. We dropped them off of cranes, submerged them in seawater. You've got your UL 9540A, and the new A gate will actually have, for those that are wondering, the 1741 protection finally passes through, is on the label of the A gate. You will not have those delays anymore with the AHJs that give you a hard time. You mentioned hot earlier, the customer did. I want to talk about cold, because I think that's the bigger devil in the room. Chemistry of batteries is not that they operate well in freezing temperatures. You leave a AA battery outside in freezing temperature, that thing is dead within an hour and a half, 2 hours. You're not putting that in a device and using it. And the biggest thing that batteries have trouble with is charging in cool weather. We actually have intelligent heat blankets inside of the battery. And one of the things we've figured out is we need to start heating the battery when it's 30 degrees, not when it's 2. So a lot of companies don't have that timed out right. So this allows us to actually start heating the battery before it ever gets into that tragic state where it can't be charged and it can't keep its charge rate. So yeah, you lose a little bit of the overall kilowatt hour capacity because you're running a heater to keep the battery warm, but it's working, which is, I could say, is a lot more for our competition. These work up to 10,000 feet elevation. And then this guy here, he went through a -2 for 3 days in Fayetteville, 110,000 people out of power. Hosted a party at his house, right, with his generator, even though his solar panels were completely covered with snow. So, and I'm assuming this is probably one of the systems you were talking about. Where you go, how's that going? How are those batteries out in the open Bakersfield air going for you? Yeah, we don't recommend this without a cover. That, like, at all. One of my favorites is the guy Clyde. If you're not using this for your homeowners, highly recommend you do. FranklinWH Hurricane. Google it on YouTube. A very, very powerful story. But his batteries were submerged underwater, and when the water finally, everything washed out of his house and everything was gone, his Franklin system still worked. He was able to turn on his main panel, have power, and not only support his community and help others, but get his life back together. I kind of feel like we could skip some of this, as I want to leave time for questions. But lastly put, guys, we need to help our salespeople in the marketplace. Your people that are selling are not trained enough. Some are, there are a few are, but most aren't. And if you've got 10 people, 7 of them still don't understand how this works. I promise you. The big mistake, right, is we think that the sun shines for half the day and that it's dark for half the day. And the reality is, right, you've got about 4 hours of peak sun and you've got some shoulder sun, but really it's dark for 60% of the day, right? And this is why capacity is so important. I see a lot of 10 kilowatt hour, 15 kilowatt hour systems being installed with 9 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt systems. That's not going to work on a self-consumption play unless they are using a ton of energy during the day. Like, come home at lunch and charge their car for an hour and a half kind of situation. Like, they're going to be losing the majority of the kilowatt hours they're producing without a catcher's mitt to grab it, right? They're out there with a little Dixie cup trying to catch a fire hose. Every kilowatt hour you produce from your system that's not stored or credited is a hole in your investment. So protect their ROI. High capacity is king. Customers will appreciate you bringing this up instead of avoiding it. So just for those of you that had questions about the generator, Kohler, Generac, Briggs & Stratton, Cummins, Upstart, brand agnostic, 240 volt, 60 hertz, we'll take it. And again, this allows you to keep your house quieter, your neighbors happier, and keep everybody warm. So I think we have a slide, Daniela, right, before we go into questions?
It would be good to unmute myself. Yes, there is a poll question, if we could load this up.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You're like the Wizard of Oz. It's like, hey, can you pop up a magic box?
Okay. I can start reading it out. I don't know, maybe until we load the question, maybe you can type some answers in the chat. So the question is, after hearing all of that, oops, there it is. Okay. Yeah. What features about Franklin Whole Home appeal to you the most? So we've heard a lot of the advantages and differences in between the different manufacturers. So this is just like a little check-in, like a recap. Is it the smart circuit load control, proven resilient LFP chemistry, or the ability to work in any climate? The capacity, the output power, the ability to retrofit with pre-existing systems? This is a really good question. So let's see. I encourage everybody to vote, please. What is it, whether you're currently using it or not, what is it that most appeals to you? So answers are coming in. So this is curious. Please keep voting, guys. But so far, I see the ability to retrofit with pre-existing systems. That is really interesting. Would you like to comment on that, Justin, as we are still getting results?
No, it's lovely. It's great to see that you guys see that, right? You've got almost a million customers coming out of warranty in the next year, right, with their previous inverters. So we've got what, 5 million homes installed with solar, right? Utilities aren't getting any better. Grid's not getting any better. There's no big power plants going in, right? So when you look at your market, what customers are going to be easier to acquire? Win over, right? Present a lower cost per acquisition, less robust design, project management, right? It's going to be retrofit almost every time. It's a relatively easy job.
It's a huge opportunity
Yeah.
for our customers to be able to service and to have products that are able to be used for retrofit systems.
Yeah, you're
What
right,
else do
Daniela.
we
I mean, you know I'm obsessed, right, with the service side of this business, and I think that we haven't quite got our ratio down yet
have? Yeah,
to, I think profitability lies. It's gonna help to be a marathon runner in the next few years, and but if you can squeeze profit out of service, and I don't mean
yeah,
squeeze by doing it for free, right? Customers, I paid a lot to have my air conditioning unit fixed at 11 p.m. at night in the middle of the summer. So don't shy away from it, guys. I know it's kind of a nerve-wracking time in our industry. Since I last saw you guys a couple of weeks ago, we've had some major players go down, and it opens up a lot of the market to really good opportunity. So
yeah,
we seem to have 14 people that are down to participate in these, and then 8 were out.
yeah. So that's about it. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty clear. We have smart circuit load control as well.
Mhm.
They're pretty close. The LFP chemistry capacity. So this is great. Yeah. So let's just stop sharing that. And
Yeah.
Justin, I'll let you. We still have about 10 minutes for the
Yeah.
presentation and maybe for more Q&A. So far, we ask all the questions. Oh, there's another question coming. I'm going to give it back to you, Justin, for a moment.
Oh, perfect. Well, before we get into the questions, I just want to say, guys, when we started and you guys were kind enough to, work with a new brand that didn't have, market equity and was kind of finding their way, you guys have really supported us to get us to where we are, right? We would not be here without our installers, and we have zero hubris about that. We got some really, really good people right out of the gate that kind of showed us how this industry worked. And frankly, this product was built for you, right? It was the UX is the installer. Um, from a sales side, I think we have like 4 or 5 salespeople nationwide. We have like 14 service or 15 service. We've always believed in that ratio and being there for our customers in that capacity. So on a national level, whether you're in the South, we kind of do a smiley face across the U.S. So sorry if you're in the Kansas, Nebraska states, you don't really have a ton of support, but we will send people to you. So we've actually dropped people out of helicopters to job sites before.
Also,
So
you could work with us. We can get you in touch with your Franklin rep or with Justin. So please do not hesitate, even if you're in Kansas,
yeah,
to reach out to us. We are here to help.
our guys will be in Iowa next week for the 4th of July. They're working, man. So I think we have a Girl Scout camp that needs some love. It's before all the campers arrive on the 5th. So they're spending the 4th to get out there and make sure everything works right. I really deeply love our team. You've got guys like Josh Brooks, who's Bill Brooks' son, running in NorCal. Felipe Berga, who was the head service, saw what not to do at Duracell and has just completely like flipped the script. He's so responsive. So this entire team, Austin Tabor, who runs the VP of service, I think our hold calls are down. Our wait times average is down to 42 seconds.
Yeah,
So
that's our experience too. To work with you guys, you're always immediately available. So that's great. So let's have those conversations together if you
yeah,
need any support. There's a question or a comment rather about the chemistry question
yes,
again. I'm really familiar with LFP, NMC, and several other chemistries. I'm generally less worried about cold because your typical Shenzhen BMS tend to UTB at 0 degrees Celsius. I'm more worried about heat because those same BMS tend to default to 65 or 70 degrees Celsius. I even saw one default at 100. Could you please comment on that?
yeah. That is a great question, right? Power electronics. I mean, that's another thing, right? We really need to be installing the gateways. I mean, we allow it up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or I think 112 degrees Fahrenheit direct sunlight on the A gate. It's a little more flimsy, right? It doesn't have that like sophisticated cooling system. Our EMS is in our gateway. So but we have, and when those fail, it's as simple as replacing them. They don't present a thermal runaway risk. but they do, if we're installing gateways directly into the sun, it's not as robust, right, as just a main panel. Those things are tanks. So yeah, we got it. We've got to be smart about it, right? If it feels like it's going to be hot, don't put it there. These can be installed indoor, outdoor, but from a temperature failure rate, we've never had a thermal runaway event. And again, this includes me having the batteries in an oven.
I have more questions. Justin, are
Yeah.
you ready? I'm really,
Mm-hmm.
not this one we just had. Please comment on the 5 kW continuous output versus 11.5 kW with a Powerwall 3. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's a ton of power, right? And from an output side, you're going to be able to run most of your house with that for, I don't know, an hour. It's awesome. If you have a single battery, most customers, right, that are going to use this for whole home are going to need more capacity than 13.5 if we're engineering this correctly, because you do have risks associating more DC, more solar. There's not a lot of capacity to charge the batteries in the first place. So that's cool that you have the output, but it's going to burn really fast. With Franklin, once you get to 2 batteries, you're right there, right at 10 kilowatt, but because you have 20 kilowatt surge. So, and once you get to 3 batteries at 40 kilowatt hour, we are significantly more powerful. So on the single battery systems, for those homeowners that are looking for a cost down solution, it certainly is a much better output. And we do have a solution for that. I think the more important thing is how that pairs with the main panels, right? Because now you can use a meter collar because it's powerful enough. You've got that backup switch. You can now put that in there and power the loads directly without worrying about fault or having to relocate on a single battery. Currently, Tesla holds, I would say, probably the best position in the market for that situation. But that is a unique kind of customer. That's not how battery storage really is meant to be applied. And so I think you're going to lose a lot of PV. You don't have a lot of capacity for what you actually need. And black startability has been proven to be really bad. So once the customer does drain that power all the way, which they can do easily with an 11.6, how are you going to get it back on outside of a generator? All right, so you got to do a truck rollout to get the battery back up.
It brings me to the next question.
Right now we're 5 kilowatt. Yeah, no, Daniel, it's okay. And then lastly, we will be significantly improving that output on the next generation product. But again, I want to remind folks, output to capacity is a really important ratio. We seem to have forgotten that in this latest generation of batteries that came out. But there was a reason the Powerwall 2 was so successful for so many years. You have 5 kilowatt, you got 13.5. That's a 2.5 hour runtime, max speed.
Yeah. So there was a question, you mentioned the solar meter collars. When will Franklin have one?
So we are working with a third-party company. I don't think I can disclose who it is. I can disclose that Q3, we will have, late Q3, you'll have a working product for Franklin as far as meter collar is concerned.
That sounds good. And then we have another question, or maybe more like a comment, and I wonder what you say about that. At 100 degrees Celsius, CATL cells are
Well,
leaking.
Celsius or Fahrenheit? Because
It
at
says
Celsius,
Celsius.
we're dead. Yeah.
Yes, that's very
We're
true.
all dead.
Maybe it's Fahrenheit.
I'm assuming you mean Fahrenheit. Yeah.
It's Celsius, but I think that's a mistake. Okay, so that nothing to add there, right?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think from a heat side, I would encourage. I'm happy to talk offline and
Yeah.
share some personal, some fleet information. One things I can tell you is that all of our batteries that are over a year and a half old, almost every single one of them has a cell capacity higher than 98%. We have an uptime on our fleet of 99.997%. So yes, and these batteries are installed in Arizona. We've seen them. We've got them in Alaska, got them in Puerto Rico, right? So from a weather side, thermal events are real, and we have to be careful. But I'm more than happy to kind of share some of our proprietary cooling info once we get on NDA.
Okay. Sounds great. I just posted the email in the chat for everybody who asked for it. We are going to share the slides as well. I have one last question maybe for you. So hearing all this and going back to what you said in the beginning, that there was only a handful of batteries in the early days, and now we have so many solutions and so many manufacturers. So if you were to give our customer a word of advice, what does an installer have to look for when looking for a battery? What are like the things that you would recommend installers, questions to ask and evaluate?
Right. What does my average fleet look like? Like, what battery is going to support what I typically install the best? Right. You don't want to sell. You don't want to design. It's storage, then solar is the most important way to size these systems, regardless of if they're at a 1-in-1 or if they're in or they're in an NEM situation. I would like to think that I'd have to have confidence that my customers aren't going to come back to me in a year and not get the savings that they were expecting, because I put this on paper. 3, the thing that's most important to me is, how do I get service and how do I support my customers that I install these products on? I installed Generac, Enphase, Tesla, LG. Still got 40 blown up LG batteries sitting in a warehouse waiting for somebody to come get them.
Yeah.
Been here. So I know what what that can do, right? And we talked about this a little bit at the Leadership Summit, but 2,000 installs means that you're doing, if you have a 10% failure rate on that product, that means that 200 days a year, you're working to fix them.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it's what's my RMA rate? I'm willing to pay more if it doesn't cost me long term.
Yeah. This is great advice. So that also points to beyond technical specifications, because it points to really understand who your customer is, what your customer needs, the specific application that your product is for. So I think this is really good advice. So consultative approach, other than just like,
Thanks, Danielle.
better. Yeah. So this was awesome. I'm sure there are more questions right now. There is, sorry, I was late. That's okay. Like one question comes in here, but as far as generator compatibility, can the generator charge the batteries? Can Franklin equipment start the gen? What do you think?
Say that again. Can Franklin equipment start the gen? Yes. So the generators feed the loads. The excess power goes to the battery, right? The way that it's configured from a logic side. Solar, you got to think of like solar and generators the opposite, right? Solar is a push of power, and so we're just trying to get it, versus the generator is a call to power. So Franklin is what instigates the generator to turn on. If it's a standby and it's an auto, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. And as I said, Justin's email is in the chat. You will be getting the slides, so you didn't miss anything here. I'm so glad. This was so much fun, Justin. I really appreciate your time, and giving us more details about your products and the usability of your products. I really appreciate our partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniela. And Kevin Good, I see you. Please email me, man. I got you covered. We'll talk after this meeting.
Fantastic. Don't forget to register at our website and to our newsletter, and reach out with any questions.
Yeah.
Was there something else, Justin?
I was going to say they can get certified at FranklinWH.com if they aren't already. We have a brand new training portal, super easy to use, intuitive. I think everything's videos. So yeah, get in there if you haven't already. We have a buy 2, get 1 free for those that haven't installed Franklin. We have this promotion going right now. So if you're just thinking about trying it and haven't participated in our promos before, reach out. We'll take care of you.
Fantastic. Thank you for adding that. The link is in the chat. Brandon posted it, where you can get more information about the certification. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you for all your support. And thank you, Justin and team. You guys are doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you so much. See you guys soon.